Welcome to Parrot's Literary Corner, a daily show that showcases the lifestyle and the experience of creative writers across the globe. Today, I'm not going to be actively engaged in this, so I'm just going to be partially coming in and out of this show, as the main anchor of today's program is Dustin Pickering, and TZ publisher. Last time I was talking, I mixed up the journal, the regular journal that he released, and the publishing house. So, and he kept on reminding me, but my mind was in a message. I was more concerned about that journal, so I never really focused much on the publishing press. So anyway, we accomplished our mission yesterday. So, and I believe that our mission will be accomplished today. My name remains the same. I am Mutiu Olawuyi, the co-host of this very wonderful show. And I'm going to hand over to Dustin now, as we will kick off the program. On the show today, we have a guest. The guest, who is the guest? How far has she gone? What has she achieved? By the time we're done with this program, you get to know. So over to you, Dustin.
Well, hello, Chryssa. Well, I guess my first question is, maybe can you give us a little bit of a rundown about how you first became involved in poetry and where that passion was directed?
Look, my motto says that poets are born. So I think that I was born to be a poet. When I asked him and why I started to write and publish in my 40s, he said, "You were an oral poet before." Yes, my whole life is kind of trying to find my equilibrium through words, through rhythm. When I had problems, I was talking in a rhythm. I was reading poetry, and I didn't remember that I was reading. I was feeling when I read poetry. So this is another great poet from New York, Elaine Pauline. She's older than me. Told me once, there are people that don't understand metaphor. There are people that can understand metaphor. And there are people that can make good metaphors. And you are among them. You are a poet. So I think poetry chose me, not, I didn't choose poetry.
So would you say you're kind of a fatalist in that sense? Do you think maybe that poets are kind of a soul family in a way, or are there certain people that cling to poetry who are sort of maybe not as good as...
A poet has the charisma, but he must cultivate it, of course.
That's an interesting concept. Do you know much about like the history of Greek poetry, like lyric poetry and?
Greeks are among the first who wrote poetry seriously since antiquity, and we are loaded with that weight of history until today. Greek poets are very important poets, but they are very enclosed to their language. They love so much Greek language that they think that it is almost an insult to write in another language. So they see me like something strange. On the other hand, I love my language too, a lot. I didn't travel abroad until my 50s, I think. No, I did went to Germany when I was 25, but I started to write, of course, in Greek, but I started then to write in English without translating, because I wanted to express myself freely. And my language, my country is very limited, is very enclosed to itself. Thoughts are recycling, and there is much criticism. By writing in another language, in English, that was widely known, I had the chance to be understood and to be more free. To be more free.
Do you think each nation has a sort of national characteristic when it comes to its national poetry?
I don't believe in national poetry exactly. I believe in the sound of the nation, in the sound of the country, of the language. This is not translate. This cannot be translated. It is differently heard. I don't translate. I rewrite.
So, is there like a parallel between the, like, say, English and Greek that makes it translatable, or is it something so drastically different that the meaning alters when you change the?
Well, you took a language that is very rich. Greek language is one language that is that has more than, perhaps more than, I think Chinese has a comparable number of words as Greek. It is very easy to translate from English to Greek. It is very difficult to translate from Greek to English, because every word in English could be translated in many words in Greek, and a Greek word cannot be translated so easily, cannot give the subtle sense of a Greek meaning in a poem,
right?
Of course, in a poem, it is more easy to translate prose.
Is there a difference? I mean, in the sound of the letters, do you think that has an impact on the feel and meaning of the poem?
The sound it has a great. In English, you have not the metron, all these kinds of metron we have, because we have tonifications on each word. You tonificate, listen. We tonificate in 3 syllables, in different ways, and this gives another kind of rhythm in the Greek language, and it is this rhythm cannot be transferred so
Very
easily.
interesting.
But, yes. Yes, it is very interesting. It is a difficult language to learn and to translate. Exactly. We can translate, of course. I think that there is no translation if a native person of the translated piece do not edit the translated abstract, but or book. But this thing becomes more difficult in poetry.
So, and I'm curious, like, about how your creative process works. Do you have a daily sort of ritual, or do you just come to the page when it's time, or when the inspiration sparks? Is there a rhythm or a method, or?
It is a martyrdom. I don't want my daughter to become a poet, or any of my children, because I have 4 children. When I meet a poet, I know he's a very tortured person. If he is a good poet, if he's a good poet, he's a very tortured person. When it is a kind of craziness.
Right.
A kind of, yes.
Yeah, I would say so
When you say
myself.
torture,
Many of
I
my
actually
really
want you to, excuse me, I actually want to ask, you say a good poet must be tortured, and you don't want your kids to be poets.
No, I say that he
you
is
don't want them
tortured.
to be tortured.
He
What
is
do you mean by
tortured
that word?
I mean that you are tortured to express feelings and the need.
like it's more
This
like
need make you
emotional
more, yes,
turbulence.
and yeah, and a poet I know, a very good poet, a Greek poet I know, that it is not famous because in Greece there are so great poets that they are not famous. They are just to be poets. They are like this, just to be poets, just to write. They don't want to be known.
Right. I've known many poet friends.
I met in America too. Yes,
Yeah.
I met. Yeah,
I have
and I
many
am
friends
too
who,
like this.
Yeah, I know many people who are friends of mine who are poets who it seems like as soon as they went to the page, they lost everything. I think there's a certain kind of necessity to be so solely dedicated to the art of poetry for that passion to channel itself into.
So that poet I told you before was saying to me, when I want to write, I'm burning. Right. And I wrote a very beautiful poem that brought me to America from this phrase, I'm burning, because I was feeling too that I was burning.
Wow.
I cannot stop it.
Right. You think that's like a state of the soul, or is that just the poetry fire flowing through?
It is the most beautiful thing that can happen to a person, but it is torturing because you must be completely true. You must fight to yourself.
When you say true, what do you mean exactly?
Sincere.
In the sense of like true to one's emotions, authentic, or
yes,
like true to life.
Express it. To be open to others. You cannot hide. If you hide, you're not a good poet.
So, do you think maybe is it possible in some literature to maybe conceal emotion, like in a sense of compacting it, and
it is not only emotion. It is not only emotion poetry. Poetry is emotion fighting with logic. And this is more tragic.
That's a very interesting concept, like sort of like a intuition meeting logic view, I think, is what you're discussing. And, on another subject, I wanted to see if kind of come to an understanding, a lot in the modern world around the 20th century, a lot of the countries and a lot of the poetry movements went into modernism, and they sort of had a revisionist or a new styles that developed and brought us to the 20th century. Is there any poetry that broke in Greece from that movement at all?
Yes, of course. There are beats were very loved Greece, and they call me a beat. I'm a beat laureate. I'm an international beat poet laureate, and to my second nomination and honoring, they called me also lifetime beat poet laureate on the National Beat Poetry Festival in Connecticut. My publisher is in Long Island, James Paul Wagner. Perhaps you know him.
Don't recognize the name.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, who are listening, what exactly is a beat poet?
The beat poet is now, in the past, was a reformer who crushed all the, let's say, he crushed all the norms of the poetry after the World War III. So that to get free of the criticism of the people, of the literary people, let's say, in nowadays, and with this revolution, then. They reform their lives too. They try to search about other things, about other kind of sexuality, other kind of living, etc.
So it's very inspired by jazz music and experimenting with drugs.
Yes, and jazz music, etc.
Yeah.
So nowadays, a new beat poet, at least in our foundation, because I am so tightly hugged by my foundation in America that I feel happy. They love me. So, and I love them.
Do you feel that, socially speaking, does a poet have an obligation to the community, or is there like sort of like a raw individualism to the poet? Or maybe is there a balance between the two that's...
Yes, but if a person, I didn't finish about the new beats. The new beats are people that simple people that do not want to be exactly famous. They want to be to live differently and express themselves freely. That this is what our foundation believes and has great roots to the real beats. There are real beats that are in our foundation still, like Ron Whitehead, who had a connection with other poets, and others that I don't remember. I don't want to mention because I'm very tired. We had major earthquakes these days in Greece, and before some time there was one more. And I was working for our new event in Zoom with my American friends for 5 hours. Now, I'm a technician, in fact, because I know a lot about.
So you can go back to the question you asked her with regards to the life
yes,
of poets.
You can repeat your question.
Oh, okay. Yes. I was just, thinking, is there like a obligation for a poet to the society that they flourish in,
Not
or
obligation.
or is there an individual, impulse within them?
He cannot be an individual since he is open and he is sincere. his existence serves the society. His existence, he's not obligated to do something.
Right.
He is an active a public actor.
Right.
He cannot be something else, for example, a professional. I don't believe that the poets that become professionals are no longer poets.
Sort of the academic world and the, you know, some of the establishment, as we call them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think,
I mean,
what creates
again when they go
right.
out of this?
What do you
and remember the
what do you think creates that sort of dichotomy of the establishment literati of sorts between the authentic poet who is living authentically? What makes a person want to go into that spirit?
Both are the both are the I can't remember the word because I'm tired. Both are extremes. The two extreme things. A poet is in the middle. A poet must be authentic, but afterwards, what he writes, what he wrote, cannot be offered to the public without technically without editing. He must respect his public because he serves beauty.
Those are excellent sentiments. It's definitely true that there's a you know, the poet is sort of the purveyor of beauty or the conveyor of beauty, and there's a lot of metaphor about the light, you know, and imagination, and you know, and speaking of living authentically, and I think that's definitely very important for a poet, and each person having their own mode of being, you know, and you think that maybe that can inspire crowds?
In your question, when someone goes to the only to the authentic and to make that he doesn't care about language, etc., or he goes to the other end, he becomes a professional criticizer of the poems and how they are made and why they are made like this, then there is a controversy here. A poet must be criticized by poets and not by persons of the literature. Persons of the literature do not know perhaps some older poets or have some criterion, but a poet, every poet is a new thing.
Right.
So are
sort
you
of a fresh
trying
spirit.
to let me come in here. Let me come in here,
something
please.
fresh.
Are you trying to say that poetry is completely different from literature? When you say the people of literature, what we know is that poetry is just an aspect of literature.
Yes.
So what do you mean? Can you clarify yourself in this point?
Literature it is a kind of literature in the phase of the production, of the creation. When you create, what you create is different of what you read. So what you created, perhaps there are readers that will catch it afterwards, if this you created is authentic. And these readers are not already born, often are not already born. because a poet is a prophet too. A poet is the future too. Is something like mathematics that invented Minkowski, and afterwards Einstein used them to his relativity. It is something like that for me.
So I think what you're saying is
every new kind of poetry, if it is accepted by the public and produce or attracts the interest, you say, this is something else. This is something beautiful, but I don't know exactly which is his beauty. Sometimes you use words that are insulting, and what you read as a poem is beautiful. You don't know a poet use the words in other words, express feelings with other ways through the words. He has the words as a tool, and the words are not the same on the mouth of a poet. So you cannot judge him. You must leave him free.
We've got to the second half of this show. Thank you so much for taking us deeply into this term called poetry. Your own understanding of poetry is beyond just the text. When it is in the text, it becomes literature. But poetry comes before the text. You don't put just anything down.
Yes.
You would have even written your poem within you before you start.
I'm not a writer.
Yeah, so
I'm not a writer.
Okay. Now, I want you to really divert back to the Greek literature, because that's our focus today. And I want us to really go deeply into the what led to, because in the past, according to history, Greek poetry or Greek literature was in charge of the world.
Because
gradually,
Greek language
it disappeared. Now, the language, because it's spoken only in Cyprus, in terms of the language now, Greek language is spoken in Cyprus and Greece. That's where the domain majorly for now.
You say
according to Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica, I'm just using the reference that I have with me. I need you to elaborate, tell us the present condition of the Greek language and the Greek literature, especially poetry.
The Greek language is very important for the Greek literature. The language is the kind of language because our language is every word express what it means. When you say water in English, the sound of this language do not make the metaphor, do not make the picture of the water. When you say nero, or either in Greek, you express the sound of the water. You have words that include their meaning, their meaning, yes. How you explain what you say is written in the word. So when you use the Greek words and ancient Greek words, because ancient Greek literature was a miracle that is continuing until now through all other languages. You think that the Greek language is not spoken. If I analyze right now the language we speak, you will see that most of the too many words in this language are Greek, and some of them come after Greek. Is the ancient ST. Okay is the new, the modern Όλα καλά. Everything is all right. Okay, Όλα καλά. There are many words. I cannot. One of our politicans once in the United Union made a whole talk to the participants using Greek words that everybody understood. He was speaking in English, but he was using Greek words. So what do you want me to say? For the Greeks, this language is not dead. For the Greeks, this language is used to produce beautiful literature and poetry. I wish that all the Greeks could see what I see, that the world needs the anthropocentric Greek word. The anthropocentric, the centered to the human beings, meaning of our philosophy and our tradition. And I wish that they accept it to be more translated. And when they are translated, not to aim only the money or the fame. Because the ones they are translated usually does it because they think that they earn more money or fame. It is not this. It is that they have something very precious that must be spoken in another language too, because it must be understood. What we have in our language, in our literature, is difficult to understand, but is very precious.
I actually understand what you're saying, but I'm looking at it from the angle of the history. In the past, just like we have English language in control of the world today, the language of academics in the past was Greek.
Yes. And now,
before now, people, if you don't understand Greek, people will not see you as an educated person.
Yes,
in the
yes.
past.
Still.
But today,
still.
It's no longer the case. Even Greek.
No, you think so?
That's what I believe, because in most universities in the past, Greek was compulsory. Because it was the language of the bourgeoisie, the educated ones, the privileged ones then. But it's no longer the case again.
People that are deeply educated respect Greek language and Greek literature until now. I am respected not only because I write what I write, but because I'm a Greek too. When I come for the first time in America, I respected Americans because they put me to recite. After I recited what I wanted to recite, they made me to recite in Greek like a music all my poems for 3 hours. And they were sitting there opposite to me, and they were singing my words with me. It was something I never felt. It was such respect. No one went away. It was amazing. It was the first time I understood the force of my language, the power of my language, because it is not only power, it is a force, something that moves toward people. And in the end, they came to me, a young person came near me. He took my hand and he looked at me in the eyes and he told me, I could never believe, after all these centuries, all these conquerors, I see in front of me an ancient Greek. It was amazing.
Now you're coming back to what I was saying. That's exactly what I was saying. If people can think like you and move beyond the boundary, instead of caging themselves within their boundary, Greek would be revived. People will appreciate Greek more than even before, because people don't have access to
yes,
Greek.
I agree.
Like they used to have it in the past.
I agree.
You are like a great ambassador to Greece today, because you use
yes.
your power of language, your power of literature to even beautify Greek beyond the border. But how many of people are involved in this kind of global issues? That's exactly where the problem lies. That's exactly what I was saying. That
you say that because you are my son in Africa.
That popularity, we need thousands of people like you. We sincerely appreciate that. Oh, Dustin, you have anything, any question before we round it up? We're moving towards the last part of this.
I'm a good physics professor. I'm a good physics professor. I'm not a poet. I renounce.
You are a born poet.
That you said,
and
I don't want to be famous.
A physicist. That's a different thing. From the beginning, when you introduced yourself, you said you are a born poet. Poetry is inborn. But you were trained as a physicist,
you called me by the nose.
As a poet than a physicist. That's what I've thought about you.
Well, Mutiu, we know each other a long time.
A long time ago.
We respect each other. We respected each other. You are my son in Africa. You know that. And I wait to see my grandchildren in the future, to meet them in person, because I could not meet you because of the racial boundaries between Africa and Europe. Okay.
We will definitely meet one day. We are meeting in a very big platform, bigger platform nowadays, and I believe that that is just the beginning. I have to use this opportunity